Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the sideshow. Welcome to the circus. Welcome to today's feature, today's episode 5 of Cinemacast. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, leave a like and a follow down below. If you want to follow us on social media, if you want to join us on Discord, all the links are down below in the description section. Today's feature film, my God, this is one I've been dying to talk about. Especially with October right around the corner, Halloween season. This is a 1989 American slasher film, Clownhouse. This is one of my childhood favorites. This movie, so nostalgic, so full of moments, so full of scares. Movie's only, 81 minutes? Not even a full hour and a half. This movie's only 81 minutes. And this movie, for me, growing up, really hit the spot for me. This movie was something that kind of terrorized me a little bit back then when I was a child, watching this movie at the age of 5, 6 years old, somewhere around there. I remember my parents, they rented the movie from Blockbuster. You know, back then when Blockbuster was real big and people were going to the video store, renting movies and watching them on the weekends with their kids and stuff. They were even big with video game rentals too and all, but we mostly rented movies. But my dad, he was a cinch with a VCR. He had 2 VCRs hooked up, so we were dubbing movies, as they called them. We were making copies of movies. We were rent them from Blockbuster, make copies of these movies, and then we'd take them back. And we got a slew of good movies too. We had like a video cabinet and a half full of VHS tapes of movies, and this was one of them. And being like 5, 6 years old, especially on the weekends, I was always, watching movies, looking for something to watch. If I wasn't watching like Nickelodeon or something, or if I wasn't playing in my room, playing my toys or whatever, I was always going to the video cabinet and sneaking a movie out, going back to my parents' bedroom. My mom was always in the living room watching TV, and my father, he was at work. So I would be going back to my parents' bedroom and such, popping the old VHS in the VCR and watching a movie. We had a whole bunch of good movies. Like, I was 6 years old when I first watched RoboCop. RoboCop was so violent, and it was just so grungy. It was super violent and all. It was one of those movies where I'm like, damn. And I even picked up on some of the language too. Back then, my mom would smack me across the face and be like, "Where'd you hear that from? Don't ever say that again." But I still watch the movies and all. There's still a bunch of movies I watched growing up, like The Terminator, RoboCop, just a whole bunch of different movies that I would get into. I had my own VHS collection and all, but I was always interested in watching certain things, even on TV. Watching like horror movies, R-rated movies that were edited on TV. But I remember watching Hellraiser. I was like 5 years old, watching Hellraiser on TV, The Howling, all that good stuff. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. And some of them would give me nightmares that, some of them I still remember to this day. But, it was all cool. I grew up watching this stuff. But Clownhouse, this is one of those movies that I've seen so many times that I can sit here and recite word for word just about every scene from this movie. I could tell you every scene from this movie. Literally. But I think this is one movie that I'm not going to spoil for you guys today. This is something I really want you guys to check out and experience. Even if you say it sucks to your standards of today with the way horror movies are. But you got to put yourself in the perspective of 1989. That's when this movie came out. It was 1989. And that's when it released to the Sundance Film Festival. And it came out in 1990 in the United States. But the movie was filmed and released in 1989. And was only on a $200,000 budget. It's a low-budget film. You got very little actors in this film, and one of the big actors that you see today that's quite underrated, Sam Rockwell. If you don't know that name, Sam Rockwell, he was in quite a few movies to date that you might see him in. You know, there was one movie where he was in. It was called Moon, I think. You know, where he was on like a space station all by himself. He had a role in I think Iron Man 2. He was Wild Bill in the movie The Green Mile. He was in the Poltergeist remake. You know, he's very underrated, but he is a good actor. He really is. He puts his all into any role that he's in. You know, he's a really good actor. He was also in Charlie's Angels. He was the villain in the Charlie's Angels movie adaptation. This movie, Clownhouse, was his first. This was his film debut. And it's a good one, whether you look at it, you know, in a negative sense, or when you watch it and you're like, that was actually pretty damn good. But there's a lot of darkness behind this movie. A lot of darkness that a lot of people don't really know or understand, unless you do know the history of the director behind it, Victor Salva, which I want to go ahead and get into before I talk about the movie. So, this movie, it was his feature-length directional debut. Victor Salva, he already done like movie shorts, some shorts, you know, up to then, you know, that were in the 80s. A couple of them that you can't really find anywhere. You know, they're very scarce, but you can only read about them online. But this was his first theatrical, full-length, you know, directional debut. And it stars a very young Nathan Forrest Winters. I think this was the only movie that he was in. Brian McHugh, and of course Sam Rockwell. And they were portrayed in the movie as three young brothers. And they are stalked by these escaped mental patients that are disguised as clowns, portrayed by Michael Jerome West, Brian Weeble, and David Reinecker. Yeah, I guess I pronounced that name right. Clownhouse marks the second collaboration with Victor Salva and Winters and McHugh, who previously worked on a short film, Something in the Basement. And this was Rockwell's first film. So there was a movie that Victor Salva did called Something in the Basement. This was a movie that I was desperately wanting to find. You know, it's a short film too. This movie came out in '86. Can't find it anywhere unless you look on. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can find it on YouTube somewhere. You know, Something in the Basement. But there's actually an Easter egg for that in the movie itself. There's a scene in the movie where you see a poster for Something in the Basement up on one of the brothers' doors, one of their bedroom doors. And it's a very neat, you know, I'm sitting there all these years looking at that poster, and then when I seen that, you know, Victor Salva directed the short film, you know, the same day, I was like, okay, this is something that I have to find, but it's very hard to find. It's probably out there, obscure somewhere on beta, VHS, Laserdisc, whatever, you know, somewhere out there. Now, when you look up for this movie, now you can find this movie in full on YouTube. I will say that first and foremost. This movie is uploaded on YouTube. It's public domain. It's not owned or distributed by any major movie distributor like Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, or anything like that. This movie is public domain. Just like Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is public domain. So anybody can take that movie and distribute it under their brand and sell it and market it. That's what public movies. You know, that's what public domain movies are. You know, it's made by, you know, a team. It's a low budget film. Anybody can distribute it. Anybody can pick it up, sell it on their own home video back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and so on. So even today, like you very rarely see it today. But back then, you know, public domain movies, you know, movies with no real intentional distributor, no major distributor at all. that's where, where it comes into play, for these movies. It's like, okay, we want to market our movies, we want to be able to sell them out there, and somebody be like, okay, I'll pay out some royalty to it, I'll give you a fee, or I'll pay for it, say, hey, I will give you $500,000 of our money, we want to distribute it under our brand. So there's money coming in for that, that kind of thing, or whatever the financial situation is, when it comes to all that, the basis of it. But that's pretty much how public domain movies work, and this one, it's one of those public domain movies. I may be wrong. Somebody may correct me down in the comment section, try not to be too harsh. I'm just trying to, learn more about, the whole distributing of movies, when it's not under a major, direction or anything like that, but this movie was distributed by Vision International and Triumph Releasing Corporation at the time, but still considered public domain, And this movie, if you want to watch it today, it is on YouTube. All you got to do is type in Clownhouse 1989, and you'll find a full movie. The first 5 or 10 research, what do you call them? the first 10 things that you see when you're searching for it on YouTube. The first 10 results. There you go. The first 10 results of it. And you'll find it. So if you want to catch it, if you can't find it on DVD anywhere or whatever, you can still watch it on YouTube. You can download it. This is something that you will not find on Amazon, or you may find it on Amazon. I don't know. That, or you'll find the trailer for it. You won't find it on Hulu or Tubi TV or Netflix or anything like that because of the controversy behind this movie. Clownhouse became the subject of controversy when Victor Salva was convicted during post-production for sexually abusing 12-year-old Nathan Forrest Winters between shoots. Due to this controversy, home media releases of this film were removed from distribution and are out of print. So when the movie came out, yeah, it was released on VHS. I'm not sure if it was released on Laserdisc. Laserdisc was still a thing. Beta was almost just out the door already. Nobody was buying Beta anymore. It was all about VHS. It did make DVD prints. There were DVDs that were printed of this film back in the 2000s. I managed to get my hands on a copy of it. But then after that, more and more people started getting on top of, hey, you don't be distributing this movie on DVD, because the director, he sexually abused a child during the production of the movie and all, don't be doing it. And then they took it out of print. They stopped distributing it. You'll never find it on Blu-ray. You most likely will never find it on DVD again. So your best bet is to either hopefully know somebody who has a copy of it, or have a copy of it on VHS, maybe find it somewhere at a thrift store or whatever, or maybe the DVD copy, But your best bet right now is, if you want a copy of this film and you got a program that downloads videos from YouTube, go to YouTube, find this movie, download it, and hold on to it. This is a relic from the times, but a lot of people will disagree to hold on to this. So let's get into the controversy behind it. Now, this movie was filmed, or it was shown at the Sundance Film Festival, January 1989. And of course, it was released theatrically July 20th, 1990. In 1988, director Victor Salva was convicted of the sexual abuse of Nathan Forrest Winters, who was 12 years old. He was the lead actor who played Casey during production, including videotaping one of the encounters. Commercial videotapes and magazines containing child pornography were also found at his home. After serving 15 months of a 3-year prison sentence, Salva was released on parole. Winters came forward again in 1995 when Victor Salva returned back to his directional debut and released the movie Powder. If anybody remembers seeing Powder back in 1995, that starred Flattery, I think that's the name. He was in the Boondock Saints. I forgot what his full name was, but I remember Flattery. He was in the main role of Powder. So Winters came forward in 1995 again. He picketed a screening in Westwood. In a YouTube interview conducted by Blast Zone Mike with Winters in April of 2017, and that interview is also found on YouTube as well, Winters revealed that when SALVA was arrested, everything but the dubbing had been completed, and that all the dialogue was added in post-production due to the extremely loud noises of the camera. In a YouTube interview with the Millennial Report in 2018, Winter spoke about the work that he had to do after the principal photography. He has spent 8 to 9 hours a day doing the dubbing for a month. This all took place at the Francis Ford Coppola's home. During this time, he was told he would never work in the industry again, and he never did. Coppola later tried to sue Winters for breach of contract. Then there's a critical response to this movie. Arlene Calkins from the Daily Utah Chronicle wrote that the movie for me rivals anything I've seen done by Stephen King at his best. Salva's direction is crisp and right on the mark. And that's where I feel this movie is strongest at. For being Victor Salva's first feature full-length movie to come to the big screen. His direction is crisp and right to the mark. And I will say that, like, this movie, put yourself back in 1989, 1990, watching this film, and you will see how terrifying this movie truly is. You know, this is something that back in the day, you would be afraid to watch it in the dark. But what else came out back in 1990, 1991 when it comes to this name Stephen King around the time? Stephen King's It. The book was already out several years before. The movie adaptation to it went directly to, television. It was a miniseries. It was terrifying for a lot of kids back then who were scared of clowns. This movie, I feel, kind of emphasized it. Where you look at a movie like Stephen King's It was a base of fiction, of course. You got a fictional being that takes the form of a clown, and it stalks children, in a small town. It stalks 7 different children, and it feeds off of their particular fears. Like, one's fear could be werewolves, another one's fear is the loss of his little brother, due to, this clown, the following year or whatever, but that is fantasy horror right there. Fictional fantasy horror. This movie right here, I feel, would resonate with the generalization of 1990, with the fact that, clowns, they are a scary topic for kids. They are a scary topic for people who have suffered trauma in the past from clowns. And they'll say, I will never watch it again. But when you watch a movie like this, and it's not just about the makeup, it's not just about the face, it's about what's behind it. When I stated earlier that this movie it talks about 3 kids, 3 brothers actually, who are stalked by 3 escaped mental patients who are wearing the costumes and makeup. That's where the realization comes in for this movie that makes it crisp and right on the mark. This is where your actual fear would come in. It's not about clowns that would just appear out of nowhere, scare the fuck out of you, and disappear, This is about an actual being who is there to harm you, but in a way where it can either be cute, cuddly, and funny, or very deranged and dangerous. TV Guide gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, sadly, writing that the film plays cleverly on the visceral dislike many people feel for clowns, and the result is often truly creepy. Now, they give it 2 out of 4 stars. I would have given it 4 out of 4, or at least a 3 out of 4. But just that statement alone, it plays cleverly on the visceral dislike that many people feel for clowns, and the result is often truly creepy. Joe Bunk of the Des Moines Register noted that the film looks like a family and friends project. SALVA has cobbled together the usual outrageously phony horror flick plot, adding the fright-making shadows of Morata. I'm not even going to pronounce that name, but the photography of the film and the moody music underscoring the kids' horror of what is overtaking that helps blank out the irrationality of the plot. This film was included in a 2017 list of the creepiest clowns in movies, compiled by Variety, in which was noted the film's claustrophobic setting and eerie atmosphere makes it one of the scariest thrillers on the list. Right now, if you go by Rotten Tomatoes ratings, it holds a 40% approval rating and an average rating about 5.7 out of 10. Claustrophobic setting and eerie atmosphere makes it one of the scariest thrillers on the list, and I absolutely agree. Now, when it comes to the whole media, mainly due to the controversy during its production, Clownhouse became a sleeper hit but soon fell into obscurity. The film was released on VHS and was released on Laserdisc in 1990. On August 26, 2003, the film was released on DVD by MGM but was pulled from shelves due to a protest surrounding the sex abuse incident that occurred during the production. Now, aside from all that, reading what I just read, okay, now, Victor Salva, and I'm going to read up on him just a little bit here, okay? So, in 1988, I already read that he was convicted of sexual misconduct with one of the underage stars, Nathan Forrest Winters, and he videotaped the encounter in which he forced the victim to perform oral sex on him. Commercial videotapes and magazines containing child pornography were also found in his home. He then pleaded guilty to lewd and lascivious, I don't know, but lewd conduct. I can't pronounce that fucking word. I'm lost for words, but yeah, lewd conduct, oral sex with a person who was under 14, and procuring a child for pornography. He was sentenced to 3 years in a state penitentiary, of which he served 15 months. He completed his parole in 1992. But he took a hiatus after his release. He had a few other things going on for him. He worked as a telemarketer during the week and filmed a few scripts during the weekend. But then, he did a couple, direct-to-video horror films. One of them came out in 95 called The Nature of the Beast. I'll probably look into that next time. I'm going to have to find that film and actually review it for you guys. But then he also, his next big studio picture that he made in 95 that was picketed by Nathan Forrest Winters was Powder. And that was the movie about the albino boy with the special powers that made him an outcast. And then he had a few other films after that. One of them was called Rites of Passage that came out in 99. It depicted a homophobic father who unwittingly pushes his gay son into the arms of a psychotic killer. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Now, if you hear the name Victor Salva, if it sounds familiar, he then directed in 2001, wrote and directed the horror classic that you all know and love as Jeepers Creepers. Yes. This guy, who 11 or 12 years earlier, who was convicted of sexual misconduct and possession of child pornography, who was sentenced to 3 years in prison and served 15 months. This guy wrote and directed Jeepers Creepers. And people still love that movie to this day. People will still watch that movie to this day. Now, I have a question for y'all, and you can put your answers down in the comment section. After hearing all of this about this director, are you willing or will you go back to rewatch Jeepers Creepers 1, 2, and 3? Will you go back to those movies after hearing about this? Because usually a lot of people who hear about pedophiles who direct films and do this and do that, they usually boycott them, right? They usually boycott pedophiles. It's like, oh, you touched a child, you had sex with a minor, you did this, you did that. I'm not going to touch your shit again. But will you go back and rewatch this movie? Even Jeepers Creepers 2. Now, Jeepers Creepers 3, when that came out in 2017, here's what's funny about that. So, he wrote, directed, and produced the third installment. And then the release, when the movie came out, it drew controversy for incorporating a character who was the victim of child molestation. Dialogue that suggested justification for the molestation was later cut from the film. But, also at this time, people had come out, they already learned about Victor Salva, they learned about the history of him, they said this movie was written and produced and directed by a pedophile. Let's boycott it. So they started to try to boycott Victor Salva again. Did he do any other films after that? Nope. Jeepers Creepers 3 was the last movie that he did back in 2017. But prior to that, he did what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. He did 11. He did 11 films. One of them was short. Directed all of them. Wrote all but one. And produced all but, 2, 4, 6 of them. That's all those movies that he has under his belt. This guy, yes, he is disgusting for what he did. He really is. He's a disgusting person. Anybody who involves himself in sexual misconduct of children, possession of child pornography, all that mess, you would think they would suffer and serve their time in prison for life. No, he only served 15 months out of a 3-year sentence. Did he perform any more acts after that? No. But that's what he's condoned at. That is what he is sought as now, as a pedophile. Now, I know about his history. I learned about his history years after I started watching the movie. Has it turned me off from watching this movie, period? No. I don't support what the director does. I don't support it at all. I wish death upon him. Or anybody of that matter that touches a child in any way that's, that shouldn't be done. But this movie here, along with Jeepers Creepers, I still watch Jeepers Creepers now and then. That's not my top favorite movie. I'll watch it because, if it comes on TV or if it's just there, I'll watch it, It's not something I'll seek after to watch, but I'll still watch it. But this movie I grew up with, it's nostalgic for me. I love it. It still delivers. This is one of my favorite movies growing up from my childhood. And I enjoy Clownhouse. I do. Do I agree with what the director did? Fuck no. And I never will. And poor Nathan Forrest Winters, he's never really fully got the justice that he was looking for. He was hoping this guy would rot in prison. He was molested on the set of this movie. He was 12 years old. He still pickets this movie to this day. He still pickets against the director to this day. He still tells his story. And I think he should. But I look at this film as one of those forgotten timeless classics, in a sense. If you forget that this movie was directed by a pedophile, if you forget that, any of this happened, and you go in and watch this movie without even knowing any of this had even happened, I think you will find that this movie can be a genuine, terrifying experience. Same as Halloween. This movie does not rely on a lot of blood or gore factor. In fact, there's very little gore at all. Minimum amount of blood. And a lot of the kills happen off screen. A couple of them happen on screen, yeah. But the big ones happen off screen or in the shadows. kind of makes it a little bit more creepy, you know, because you're wondering how these psychopaths are killing their victims, you know? I mean, it's obvious, you know, you see a couple of them, like, in the shadows or whatever, you see what they do, but they're mentally, you know, they're mental patients. They escape from a mental institution. So let's go ahead and get into the story now. So you have these three brothers. The youngest one, who's played by Nathan Forrest Winters, his name is Casey. His life is constantly influenced by the intense fear of clowns. Now, this is something where it's like you could take somebody's life, somebody's livelihood, who has a strong fear of clowns, and you put them in a movie like this, and you emphasize it. You turn the dial all the way up to 11. And it's like, we're emphasizing the fear of clowns. You got clowns coming after a child who's already scared shitless of clowns. Like, how does somebody deal with this within an 81-minute period, you know? But he has two older brothers, and they are most disobliging. One night, all three of these brothers, they decide to go off to a circus after school, but before they head to school, though, or before they go to the circus, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of time jumping, sort of. So, but it plays it off pretty well. They're on their way to the circus, and they stop by, and they see this police presence at this mental hospital. So something had happened. You know, you already know that something's happening. You know, there's already that fear, that sense of, okay, something bad is getting ready to happen. And they say it's at the nut house. You know, it's at the nut house. But you learn later on, or you see later on, that 3 patients escaped. There's 3 patients that end up escaping. And all around that time, you know, while these children are at the circus, that's where these patients escape to. This is their hideaway for a little bit of the film. Now, there is a segment in this film where they're at the circus, and Casey wants to go and talk to a fortune teller. This scene, in general, is creepy enough. The mood is very creepy. You know, the music, it gets to you. It's almost like the music gives you goosebumps. Sends that chill right down your spine. This scene alone, you know, you have this fortune teller who is scaring the hell out of this young child telling his fortune. But then she seems very concerned with what may happen. Especially whether it could be that night or the next day or whatever, but she sees something. And the other brothers, they try to be more comforting of the situation. They try to say, don't listen to this woman, she's fucking nuts, basically. Let's go and have some fun, you know, let's go and do this. So they continue their night, and then they go home after that. Meanwhile, there's these 3 circus clowns that perform that evening that Casey becomes terrified of. And their names is very cheap. It's comical. You got 3 clowns, you know, 3 performers. The clowns' names are Chizo, Bippo, and Dippo. And after the circus had ended, you know, you have this scene, this 5-minute scene where these clowns are talking amongst themselves, and they're getting, you know, they're washing the makeup off their face. But then they start hearing noises outside the tent, and it's these 3 mental patients. And of course, you know, it's a terrifying scene. It has a slow build up to it, but, you know, it just takes off, you know, and it's like, oh my God. But then while this whole scene is happening, while the original actors are dead and gone, you see these 3 nutcases putting on their costumes, putting on the makeup the exact same way that the original performers had them. So now they're dressed as clowns, you know, that's their persona. So now they're off on a night of killing spree, you know? So, you know, the boys are back at home, mom's not there, and mind you, the house that these kids live in, oh my God, like, where the hell does the parents get the money for this house? It's a huge fucking house. It's a fucking mansion. This son of a bitch, okay, they might have like 4 bedrooms, something like that. But this house is so big, it could have like 10 bedrooms. It's like a fucking 3-story house, 4-story house, whatever. It's a huge house. They live in this house. But it's out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it's the middle of the night. It's dark. It's creepy. So what better way to pick off your next victims than to follow these kids? But they didn't really have the intention of following the kids. You know, they just happened to walk along this road, come across this house, and, oh, look, our next target. Our next intentional target. Kids! They didn't give a shit. So for the rest of the movie, you have Casey, who's trying to warn his brothers that the clowns have followed me, they're here to kill me. But the brothers aren't too convinced of it. You know, it's not really convincing, but he's terrified. So you got this entire night that goes on where Casey knows what's getting ready to happen, and the brothers are completely oblivious by it. And then the latter half of the film, you know, they're sitting at home, they're watching a movie, then all of a sudden the power goes out. So that's when everything starts getting really intense. You know, so the rest of the night, they gotta manage a way of defending themselves against these mental escape patients. And of course, you know, and like in every, you know, horror movie, you know, like when you got these guys, they end up killing off the clowns. They end up killing them off, of course, you know. But just the lead up to them, you know, the atmosphere of this movie, of how dark this movie really is. You know, when you got three brothers that are trying to, you know, defend themselves, fight off these deranged mental patients. They don't even know they're, you know, mentally escaped, you know, convicts. You know, they don't even know that. All they know is that there's three clowns that are chasing them for no reason, and they're there to kill them. But that's basically what the movie is. And just the overall mood of the film, it really makes it. It really does. Like, going back to some of these reviews, you know, where they're talking about the film's claustrophobic setting and eerie atmosphere makes it one of the scariest thrillers on the list. Or, you know, Salva's direction of the film was very crisp and right on the mark. Where TV Guide states that it's, you know, it plays cleverly with the visceral dislike for that many people feel for clowns, and the result is often truly creepy. Now, Victor Salva may have had a creep factor with Jeepers Creepers, and it really paid off with that. But this was the beginning. This is the beginning of it. This is years before Jeepers Creepers. This was like almost a little over a decade before Jeepers Creepers, you know? And you're dealing with not just clowns, not just a clown factor, but with the fact that, you know, it's somebody in real life. It's somebody in real life where, let's see, end screen message. I'm going to look this up too. This is somebody in real life where you're dealing with actual people. You're dealing with actual people doing actual things. And that's the creep factor. That is the scariest part of the whole thing.
One, say hi. You kicked their butt.
Now, three heroic kids are taking on one ruthless criminal.
Yes!
And they're determined to have the last laugh.
Enjoy the ride.
Three Ninjas, rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Starts Friday, August 7th at a theater near you.
Work it out, see it through, bring out the tiger in you.
Winners practice hard and eat right, like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes as part of this complete breakfast.
You show me you're a tiger, the taste of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Bring out the tiger.
They're great.
I am the hero that quacks in the night. I'm Darkwing Duck.
You can join the adventure with Darkwing, Launchpad, and Goblin against Megabolt. All 4 characters free by mailing in one fruit from Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
Like, to even add to the movie's creep factor, okay? So this movie, there's a scene, just a brief scene in the end, right after everything is done, right before the credits roll. They made sure that they added this message to the film, which pretty much explains, or is like a very subtle message, you know, to the kid, to the child's fear of clowns. You know, and it's not just, this is a movie that, it's not just about three mental patients who escape from an insane asylum, who, you know, dressed himself up as these actors from, you know, from the circus and goes around killing people. It's much more than that. It's about the boy Casey, and his fear of clowns. And there's this very subtle message at the end of the movie that states, no man can hide from his fears. As they are a part of him, they will always know where he is hiding. That right there almost sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it, when you hear that? No man can hide from his fears. As they are a part of him, they will always know where he is hiding. That is a true statement made at the end of this film. It's a true statement. This is a statement. It's about this kid. It's not, like I said, it's not about 3 nutcases who go on a killing spree. It's not about that. Like, you see that in a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s where somebody escaped from the mental asylum, somebody snapped, and they're going around killing people. You know, this movie cleverly plays that off very subtly. This movie is more about this child who has a fear of clowns, and his fear comes to life. And he has to learn to face his fears. But even during the movie, you know, there's very subtle scenes where he talks about, you never know who they really are. Referring to the clowns. You know, he talks about, you know, their faces are fake. You know, their eyes, the paint is all fake. But underneath, you never know who they really are. So there is a lot of subtle messages that play out throughout this movie. And it's done really well. It's not like with Halloween. Now, Halloween's a timeless classic. You know, I love Halloween to death. I've seen it numerous times. Halloween, you got a shape. You got a shape. That's what he's called, the shape. Michael Myers. He's the boogeyman. But you know about his history. You know, he was a deranged kid. He murdered his sister. He grew up, and he's escaped from a fucking, you know, nut house. And he's going on a killing spree, you know. And then it led to a slew of sequels where it's talking about, you know, his family members, his sister, and all that stuff. But when you go back to watching something like Halloween, and you compare it to a movie like this, like Halloween, you know, it's scary enough. You got this guy who's donning a fucking mask, you know, a mask that's just white. It's a white mask in a fucking jumpsuit. And he's stalking these teenagers, you know. That was the theme of the 80s and 70s and the 80s, stalking teenagers until the moment is right and you kill them. Where you look at a movie like this, it's not just about 3 psychopaths that are out on a killing spree, you know. It's about a young boy who has this fear, and this fear has come to him. And it's not like they follow him. It's not a supernatural thing like they know, you know. It's just something that happens. And this child is learning to face his fears. You know, he is terrified of clowns. And he has to spend a night facing those fears, you know, going up against, you know, what's going on, you know. He has to go up against it. Whether, you know, he's by himself or he's got the help of his brothers or anybody else. That's the basis of the movie. And I think that's where it plays off very well. It's done very cleverly. You know, this movie, it has a lot going on for it. You know, aside the controversy, you know, behind the director and Nathan Force Winters with what happened, it's a traumatic thing, you know. Something like that should never happen, and eventually, you know, sadly it happened. But I put all that aside, and I still watch this movie to this day, and I still love the hell out of it. You know, it's got a good mood. It's got a really nice moody soundtrack. I played the song for you at the beginning. If that's what you were wondering where that music was coming from, that's the theme song from this movie. It's kind of scary, ain't it? You know, it has that little childish, you know, wonder with it. It's like, oh look, yeah, it's a nice little theme song, but it's also very chilling at the same time. You know, it's pretty dark. It's got that subtle mood to it. So this movie, growing up watching it, I don't know if you guys are interested in watching it now that I've stated that, hey, it was directed by a pedophile. The movie was directed by a pedophile, but if you set aside the fact that it was directed by a pedophile, Victor Salva, if you put that aside and you just watch the movie, you'll have a good time with it. It's very enjoyable. Give it a once go around. If you enjoy it, go back in a second time. Like I said, if you want to find this movie, it's on YouTube. In fact, I'll do you guys one better. If you're watching this full review right now, I will put a link to this movie down in the description section. Click the link, go watch it. Like I said, this is a good watch. You guys will definitely enjoy it. Clownhouse, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. That's my personal rating, a 9.5 out of 10. I still love this movie to this day. I still quote it. Still one of my favorite movies out there. I try to put it off on people and say, check this movie out. And I always love talking about the story behind it. I'm glad it made episode 5 today. So what did you guys think about today's review? Is this a movie that you want to check out after hearing about it? Are you still going to be watching movies from director Victor Salva after learning more about what he did on the set of this film during post-production? Are you still going to be watching movies like Powder and Jeepers Creepers? Let me know what you guys think down in the description section. No. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Always feel free to leave your comments about any review, anything, any movies at all. If there's any movies you want me to review in the future, any movies you want me to check out and give my personal input on them, let me know down in the comments section. Thank you guys for coming out today and checking out today's episode of Cinemacast. Today's feature, once again, was Clownhouse. If you guys wish to follow us on social media, if you want to join us on Discord, anything like that, follow us on TikTok. All the links are down below in the description section. Feel free to click them all. Once again, thank you guys for checking out today's feature, and we will catch you right back here next week, same time at the cinema. See you then.